Okay, it says recording in progress. It is September 12th, 2023 on planet Earth. And my name is Shannon Nicole Kringen, otherwise known as Goddess Kring. And I'm going to brush my hair. I don't know if I've ever brushed my hair on camera before. Let me just preface this by saying that I think the world is moving too fast for me right now personally. And so I want to try to do a video where I slow down and I don't rush myself. Okay, so I'm going to brush my hair. It's like, okay, brush my hair. I've got silver streaks coming in. I am 54 years old. Okay, here. Okay. I don't need to keep brushing, but this is my funny rainbow hairbrush that somebody gave me for free. And I'm an artist and an art model. I've been sharing online since about the year 2000. I guess I did my public access TV show from 1996 to 2011. I live in Seattle, Washington, United States of America. I'm an only child and left-handed Scorpio Earth Monkey. Tom Petty is definitely a treasure. And he's my service musician along with Tori Amos. I am feeling extremely grateful, but also, God, the light keeps changing, doesn't it? The color, oh my gosh, the color balance on this camera keeps changing. I keep turning yellowish and then bluish, like the white balance is trying to balance. I feel like the world is moving too fast, and I think that my entire life I felt kind of rushed and like I'm constantly rushing around. And I recently had a certain thing happen to me that scared me into questioning and thinking about my mortality. I guess I'm just going to let the light keep changing. I don't know if this is recording on the video in this same way that I'm seeing, which is that I keep turning warmer and cooler and warmer and cooler. I just got back from walking some dogs. Oh my gosh, I'm hearing a baby crying. I guess that's outside. The microphone really picks up a lot. This microphone picks up on a lot. I was born in 1968 in San Diego, California. And now I am living in Seattle, Washington, 54 years later after the birth of me. For a living, I pet sit, dog walk, standardized patient for medical students, art model for artists, painters, and drawers, painters, and sculptors. Sometimes I've modeled with photographers mostly I model for myself, doing self-portraits. Recently, a very moody self-portrait of me that I took was referenced. A painter asked me if she could sorry, I'm dyslexic. I was going to say photograph from a painting, but no, paint from a photograph, not photograph from a painting, but paint from a photograph. Because most of the art modeling I do is in person. I sit still for 3 hours and then they paint or draw from my real physical three-dimensional self. So this was an unusual situation where a painter wanted to donate financially to me for permission to paint from a photo that I took of myself. And it's interesting because I post a lot of photos of myself where I'm modeling, in other words, trying to look my best, look beautiful, or express something of beauty. And this was a photo that I posted, and I was feeling really moody. I think it was on Mother's Day a couple of years ago, and it was ironic or interesting to me that I wore my father's green sweatshirt that he gave me before he moved to Florida. My parents divorced when I was 4, which is fine. A lot of parents don't stay together, but I was kind of caught between my mother and my father, who criticized each other to me. So I knew why they were not happy with each other. And I know they both loved me, but I had a hard time going back and forth between my parents. Whereas I know some kids, when their parents divorce, they have a better time than me in terms of, I know somebody actually who has parents that are not together, and his parents I really admire because they're doing it in a very loving way. They're not a couple anymore and they live in separate households, but the kid gets to go back and forth between the two parents and they cooperate, and it's really a great healthy situation that I admire. It's nice for me to witness that. Um, but I don't want to go on about my parents, but let's just say that in this moody picture of me, I was wearing my father's sweatshirt that he gave me, and it was on Mother's Day. So it was like connected to my father because I was wearing the sweatshirt he gave me, and it was connected to my mother because it was Mother's Day. And I was feeling a little sad about my mom and my grandma, who didn't really get along very well. My grandma is now passed away, and my mom and I get along better than my grandma and her did, but my mom and I have our issues, and I feel angry and sad towards my mom in some ways, and then I feel guilty for being mad at her because I know she did her best. And then I feel guilty and ashamed for being mad at my dad because I know he did his best, because both my parents had a hard childhood and I had a hard childhood in some ways. So I was feeling really moody on Mother's Day a couple of years ago, and I took a photo of myself, and I'm looking all like, I'm looking in the camera like all moody and like, oh, like it's online. If you search it, I posted it today, September 12th, 2023. I put it on my Instagram and my Twitter or my X or whatever that website is called, or all my blogs. I have a Tumblr and a Live Journal and a Blogger and what are the other, a WordPress and a LinkedIn, and I have a lot of different blogs where I share about, mostly about my art car and my art projects. But I posted the photo of me looking really moody, and then this lady this lady named Amy Schurer. I can't remember how to pronounce her last name, but a lady named Amy painted me, and it's a beautiful painting she did. And I'm looking real moody, and it didn't occur to me that somebody would want to, because that photo, I felt really self-conscious about posting that photo. Like, oh, this is not me as a model looking pretty. This is me as a moody human just sharing that I'm in a weird mood and I'm feeling sad about that. I never became a mother aside from a mom to a cat. I've had many cats as pets in my life. Um, right now I don't have any pets for the first time in my life. I've always had a cat my entire life until recently, and right now I'm pet sitting a lot of other people's cats and dogs. So kind of enjoying the break from having a pet because I have more freedom to love other animals. A friend of mine has a kitty named Mario, and I love Mario, and I'm friends with Mario. And Mario, the kitty, had an encounter with a coyote recently, and they rushed him to the emergency vet and he healed. And so that's amazing. And I helped nurse him back to health, and me and a few other people helped him. Mario the kitty is in my life. Um, I so I was amazed that this person wanted to paint from a photo of me that was moody, and me just feeling like a moody human sharing a personal challenge, as opposed to me trying to be a model. Um, And then I wanted to just say that I feel scattered all over the place. I have several different jobs. I'm a dog walker, a pet sitter, a standardized patient for medical students. That means I pretend to be a patient for medical students for both physical exams as well as being handed a script. And then I act out having aches or pains. And the medical students have to diagnose me and come up with a treatment plan, etc. So, that's kind of like a form of acting in a way. So it's kind of like I'm a model and an actor in a way, but I'm full-time freelance. I don't have a full-time job as a model or standardized patient. I work at 3 different medical schools and several different art schools, as well as private art studio sessions randomly. So I have a very random way of making a living, and I've done that for 30 years. I've done generally for art modeling for 30 years, but the medical stuff I started like in 19 like for 25 years, whatever. So, and then the pet sitting and dog walking, I only started, I think, 2 years ago officially. But before that, I just always loved animals. My grandma had horses and dogs and cats, and we had goats briefly in junior high. So I've been around lots of animals, and I knew somebody else who had a goat farm when I was a 10-year-old kid. I got to visit a goat farm, and in San Diego, California, where I grew up, we went to the San Diego Zoo a lot, and I really loved a lot of the animals. In fact, I volunteer at the zoo here in Seattle. I love animals very much, and so I'm scattered all over the place. And there's one guy in my life that I used to date, and now we're friends. And then there's a new guy in my life that I'm dating. But both he and I are artistic minded people who like to do our own thing. And so I don't see him like I don't have a full-time conventional relationship with him, although we love each other. And then this other guy and I love each other. Like I have 2 guy friends that I really love, but one of them is, well, I'm romantically attracted to both of them, but one of them I'm actually dating, and one of them I used to date, and now we're friends, even though we're still attracted to each other. So there that is. That's just the way it is. It's a little bit complicated, but everyone involved knows, the truth of what's going on. So I don't know why I'm saying that into the camera, but I just feel scattered and like the world is so fast. And here is recent art of mine. This is supposedly I'm on the autism spectrum. I don't know if I buy into categorizing people in that way, but basically I have a very chaotic mind. I'm highly sensitive. I get sensory overload. I get overwhelmed. I get irritated by things like parties that other people enjoy. And yet I like to be on stage. I like to perform and be in parades. And I'm comfortable being a model in front of people, not wearing any clothing and having them draw me in an art, studio setting. These are shoes that I have a Honda Fit that I glued rhinestones all over that I call Opal Moonstone. And these are shoes. I finally started gluing rhinestones onto shoes. So these are shoes that I found at the thrift store, a really good deal. And then I glued lots of different rhinestones. And then I painted with acrylic polymer fabric paint this opalescent glitter on top. The color doesn't show on camera too well. It's kind of the shoes are like an orange suede, and then the glitter is like a greenish opal glitter. So it's kind of like green and orange glittery thing going on there with lots of interesting rhinestones. And I'm also in an art show, an art auction coming up in November of 2023. And the shapes that I draw, me and about 50 other artists are going to be exhibiting 8 panels. Wait, is it 8? Yeah, I think it's 8 panels. This is an 8 by 8 inch canvas panel. And all of us are given 8 of these. And then we're going to each have our own little section. I think it's November 18th, and it's in Burien, Washington, which is near Seattle, Washington. On November 18th, it's called the Vision Gala, I think. So these are shapes that I draw. I have the strong urge to draw these kinds of shapes. I when I hear music, I see shapes like this in my head. Um, they're not as clear as this. They're more like transparent and they spin around in my head. So I have kind of this form of synesthesia where when I hear music or sound in general, I see textures and shapes. So these are shapes that I draw, and they kind of remind me of the shapes I see in plants and animals. These also almost look to me like intestines or body parts, anatomy, male and female anatomy. They could look like somebody giving birth or just different body parts. Um, Everything, all my art is totally abstract. I'm not trying to draw a real thing, but I'm imitating shapes that I see in plants and animals, and also maps. Sometimes when I look at my abstract art, I'll show you all the panels I've done. I'm going to do 8 of these for the November show. I'm trying to pick, just instead of doing all the rainbow colors in every piece of art, I'm trying to simplify and do like analogous or complementary colors. So each of these panels, I'm going to try to pick just a few colors and just do a theme of a few analogous or complementary colors. So these are the shapes that I've come up with so far. That is a shape. My mom actually also is an artist, and she tends to draw shapes similar to this. These remind me of mussels, you know, those shells at the beach. And then there's a blank one. Whoops. And then there's this one that's, I'm just going to do, one is just going to be a lot of, I'm just going to do this sort of layers and layers and layers and layers and layers on this one. I'm not sure how I'm going to resolve this yet, but that's just going to be, who knows what that'll look like when it's done. I have a feeling I'm going to just do a lot of layers until I figure out that's going to be different. This is just going to be really complicated and chaotic intentionally. Whereas, and this one, I guess, is like lacy, but I guess these are more simple. So I think my favorite one is right now is this one. But I like this one a lot too. And I like this one a lot too. Maybe that's my favorite. I don't know, but I like to do different shapes like that. And that's kind of how my brain works. The dark side of me is that I feel chaotic and conflicted and confused, and like there's just too much chaos in my head. And it's hard for me to keep my apartment organized. I I tend to do my dishes. I keep my bathroom clean. I scrub, you know, the sink and the toilet, and I scrub my kitchen sink, and I kind of keep those areas clean, and I do my laundry a lot, but then I don't like as soon as I organize my art supplies, I just throw everything on the floor, like it kind of looks like a little kid lives here really. Um and yet I'm really good at my jobs. Um but I don't like parties, and I feel although I like the idea, like my friend loves to throw parties and he has lots of friends, and that's cool, but I feel overwhelmed by it, and kind of I don't really enjoy certain loud social environments. And I recently went to a baseball game here in Seattle with my friend and some of his friends, and it was kind of fun but kind of annoying, and I kind of felt like I was pretending to be somebody. But then again, I do appreciate the positive energy of people who love to go to a baseball game. I liked the positive cheer on the team, positive energy, but it's kind of loud and obnoxious. And I'm not a fan of junk food. I'm not a fan of drinking lots of corn syrup and eating like processed hot dogs and white flour and sugar and corn syrup and hydrogenated vegetable oil and all of the junk food that goes along with all of that. Although I love ice cream and I love chocolate, but I'm not a fan of eating lots of junk food. And um, I'm concerned about my health in that way. Although being really stressed out and worried about what you eat is also not good for your health, because if you're worried all the time, that's not really good for your body. So, or your brain. And then the other thing I wanted to share is, here it is. see if I can do this without making too much noise. This plastic makes weird noise. Here is, I've been wanting to do this for years. I guess I can't, okay, it's too shiny. I went and got old timey Western photos taken of me at the Puyallup, oh, microphone, sorry. At the Puyallup Fair, I dressed in an old Wild West, I don't know what you call that kind of dress that women used to wear in the 1800s, but a pioneer woman fancy dress in a mansion with a green screen background, and looking real grumpy in that photo. But I wanted to do one of those for years. I did one in 2018 in England near Liverpool, where I visited my friend who lives in England. And I dressed in a Victorian dress, and I look much prettier in that one for some reason. I think I was in a better mood when I was in England, and I got to pose in front of a real background that was three-dimensional as opposed to just a green screen. But here's the funny one. Me with a grizzly bear. There's a grizzly bear. Look at, there's a grizzly bear behind me there. So I'm looking, I look a little wacky in this picture. I look a little like I'm maybe a little bit mentally insane. I don't know, but yeah, there's a bear behind me, and I guess apparently I don't realize that. And yeah, I am left-handed, so I held the gun with the left hand, and I'm not really somebody who knows anything about guns, so it was funny to me to hold a gun, even though it was a fake, prop gun. And then, okay, here. And then here is this kid's purse. This is like a little purse for kids. It's all rainbowy and kind of reminds me of raku glaze. This had actually some like characters, cartoon type characters right here, but I hand painted over that. You can't really tell because I did such a good job, but this purse came like with all the metallic stuff the way it is now, but this had some cartoon characters on it, and it was fabric. So I painted it with green metallic acrylic fabric paint, and then the swirls, spirally swirls, are acrylic paint pens, markers. I think they're called acrylic marker pens. And then I painted clear glitter polymer on top. And so I made this, like, it looks, I'm proud of this. It looks professional. It looks like it came like this, but this I painted, the rest came like that. So this is sort of, I guess, it was only $4 at the thrift store, and I fixed it up. I like to decorate things. So I am somebody who is very grateful that I'm alive. I sometimes feel very sad and very angry. Right now, I feel actually better that I'm making a video. This is calming me down. I feel like I've been involved lately in lots of art car parades. I went to LaConner, Washington for the Tom Robbins Day. That's the writer who wrote Even Cowgirls Get the Blues and Jitterbug. I forgot the names of his novels because honestly, I haven't read his novels. I saw the Uma Thurman movie called Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. I'm dyslexic, so I don't like to read a lot of books, but audiobooks, I would love to listen to audiobooks of his. But Tom Robbins, I was involved in the LaConner parade for honoring him, the writer. And he wrote lots of books, fiction books with eccentric, interesting characters. And so people in LaConner were dressed up as Tom Robbins book characters, which I thought was really cool. And so we were invited as art car people. So I belong to the Fremont Fair here in Seattle, has art cars. And so we do that. So I've been running all over the place doing art car parades, and I've had friends of mine come with me. The guy that I'm dating and his son, we rode around in the parades together, a couple of them, and that was fun. And then, so I've been doing lots of that. But as far as my internal world in my mind, I mean, because I have a rich internal world, and I feel like I've just been too busy to even pay attention to it. And yet at the same time, I think, well, maybe I need to let that go and not be so self-conscious. But I'm a deep thinker, and there's other people in my life who think very differently than me. And I feel like I'm sort of trying to be a chameleon to fit in with them a little bit. which might be good in a way. So I've been doing lots of social things like with friends, and I just feel like I lost touch with myself on some way. And I think about a year ago is when I met the person that I'm close to right now, and he's a wonderful person, but I just feel a little confused about who am I. And so I feel like I need to figure out how to take better care of myself and know how to love other people and also take care of myself. So I'm making this video to just document the mood I'm in right now and just say that I've been feeling so stressed out and angry and scared and irritated. I've been so irritable lately, and I'm sorry to anybody who is in my personal life that I've been irritable towards. And thank you so much for hanging in here with me, to my family and my friends who have found me moody and irritating lately. And there's a Joan Baez documentary that's coming out soon on October 6th. I think it's called I Am Noise or something. What is it? It's Joan Baez. And she said something in it like, I'm not as good at one-on-one relationships. I'm better at on 2000. In other words, she's better communicating with an audience than she is at one-on-one relationships. And I relate, even though I'm not famous like Joan Baez, but I relate to, I'm a little bit famous in Seattle. Some people know me as Goddess KRING from public access TV, something, a few people know me in that way. I don't know how many people are aware of my TV show that I used to have. But some people think of me in a certain way, and so and when I communicate, when I do something in my personal life, I like to share it with people. Like I remember being a little kid in San Diego and wanting our car to say, I'm Shannon and I like to go to San Diego Zoo with my grandfather on Tuesdays, and my favorite animal is the seal. For some reason, as a little kid, I wanted to communicate with an audience. And when I would play in my room by myself as a little kid, you know how some little kids have imaginary friends? I never did. I always had imaginary audiences. So I would have like imaginary audience that I fantasized would be entertained by my singing or dancing or acting or visual art that I would make. So I always thought that my job was to create something for an audience. And it's interesting because both of my parents don't like to be photographed. And it's like they're the opposite of stage parents. Like as a little kid, I secretly wanted to be like a Shirley Temple. I wanted to sing and dance and act and be fully expressive and be in theater and be an actor in movies. And, I wanted to perform in front of an audience or be an athlete. My dad was a tennis teacher. That's interesting. And then my grandfather tried to get my dad to be a model in Southern California where we grew up, and he modeled for a guy named Peter Galland, and a professional photographer that I think lived to about age 100, this photographer, Peter Galland. He's a Southern California, Burbank, California photographer. That's a long story, but in other words, I have a hard time with personal relationships, and yet I create stuff and I share it for an audience. And so maybe my boundaries are actually kind of inappropriate in some ways. And I think it was Bette Midler who said you have to be kind of neurotic to want to be in showbiz, and to want to be famous means that you're kind of mentally ill. She said. But I think she was partly joking and partly serious. But it's true that if you're loved by your family, if you feel like you're getting enough love from your family, then do you not want to be famous? Because I've always wanted to be a little bit famous, but not famous for no reason. I've always wanted to be famous for contributing to the art world, or for inspiring people, for doing something. So when I say famous, I just mean I want people in the public that I broadcast and publish my expression to acknowledge me or find me useful, or take what I publish publicly and make good use of it in terms of me being a model, me being an actor. I do work with medical students and help train them. That's not actually acting like Meryl Streep, theater acting, or film acting. I did audition and get into the Cornish acting school. Cornish College of the Arts is here in Seattle, and it is a theater school and an art school. And I did audition and get in the early 90s, and then I dropped out because I got scared. And I auditioned and I had to do Shakespeare. I had to do a little bit of Shakespeare and a little bit of Sam Shepard, part of a Sam Shepard play. And then I had to sing a cappella. I picked a Tom Petty song called You and I Will Meet Again by Tom Petty. And they said, "Who's the composer?" I said, "Tom Petty." And they're like, "Oh, nobody's ever sung a Tom Petty song before for auditioning for acting at Cornish." Okay. They said they saw a spark in me, but I was holding back. Okay, so I just wanted to share that. So I've dabbled in acting, and I've always wanted to be famous, and yet I've always been shy. And part of me is extremely insecure, and part of me is very confident, and part of me is angry and ashamed, and I feel like I don't deserve success. I'm afraid of failure and success, because if I become successful, then I'm afraid I'll be an egomaniac and I'll be some kind of shallow jerk. And if I'm not successful, then I'm a failure. And then everybody, and then, so then you worry about what people think of you. And then you lose touch with doing what you love. And then I love that music producer, Rick Rubin, worked with Tom Petty and Neil Young and all kinds of, I forgot all the other artists, AC/DC, all kinds of interesting musicians that he's worked with. And Rick Rubin was talking about how the audience should be last, and how you need to do what you, as an artist, whether you're a visual or performing artist, you need to really do what you love. Do the art or music or theater or singing, dancing, acting, whatever it is, writing. Do what you love and do your best, and then put it out in the world and let the audience take it or leave it. And there's times when I feel like I've accomplished some artistic, I've created and contributed, I've taken some really beautiful photos. I have a very good eye for photography, and some of my abstract art I think is quite well done. A lot of people like my art card and say it's really beautiful. Some art cards are intentionally not beautiful. They're very punk rock, and people just glue like garbage on their cars, or just, it's not supposed to look pretty. It's just supposed to look weird and like, whoa, I can't believe you did that to your car. But then again, I've got plastic rhinestones, acrylic gemstones, they're called acrylic gemstones, glued all over my car. And some people probably don't think it's beautiful, but people who like my car think it's quite beautiful. And I like my car. I think it's really sparkly and dazzly. And it reminds me of Oompa Loompa, Willy Wonka, Alice in Wonderland. Part of why I love Tom Petty's music so much is it's all about following your dreams and following your heart. A lot of his lyrics are about staying true to yourself and following your heart. And so when I listen to Rick Rubin talk about when he helped produce Tom Petty's Wildflowers album, it's important to do what you love. And there's times when I forget and I get really self-conscious, and then I feel ashamed. So the photo that woman painted, the fact that, see, I took a very personal, moody self-portrait and I put it online on social media with an essay talking about how moody I am about that I didn't become a mother, and I'm sad about my mom and my grandma's relationship that wasn't very nurturing. And my grandma's passed away now, but my mom, never really felt nurtured by her mother, which is sad. And then I never became a mother, and I'm sad about that. Now that I'm in my 50s, I'm no longer fertile, to be honest with you. And I've never felt like I wanted to adopt kids, but part of me wishes I could have been a mother. And I don't entirely know how to bond with people that well, but I'm trying. I have some friends that I love. And so what am I saying? So I posted that photo, and I thought that was like a personal, moody photo. And then I was surprised when somebody wanted to paint from it and make art from it. This is a serious painter named Amy Scherer, Scherer. She's a really good painter. She does beautiful paintings. And I've worked with lots of really great painters and artists, and I'm happy about that I've modeled for some great people. I'm also a good artist myself, but but I feel like the proof is in the pudding. What came first, the chicken or the egg? So maybe I should start doing weekly podcasts where I just talk like this, because I do like to talk into the camera, but I hope you're getting something out of it. But I need to just not worry about it. People have told me that I was a narcissist, mean people who don't like what I do. They say, oh, you're such a narcissist. You're so full of yourself. You're an attention whore. You're this, you're that, whatever negative things people have said. Like if it's constructive criticism that I could learn from, perhaps I could listen to some of that. But if it's just people wanting to figure out how to criticize me, well, then it's not helpful to me to listen to that. So people need to do what they love. Like if I could be an example of something to other people, it would be to follow your own unique path and do what you love, and um, focus on finding people that appreciate what you do and build on that instead of worrying about people who don't like what you do. But I'm just feeling a little confused about what I'm doing with my life. I keep saying the word so sorry about that. Yeah. So okay, so thank you for listening. This is Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring in Seattle. I guess I'll wrap up this video. Maybe I'll start doing more videos again. It's just been a monologue about my current life. And I have some concerns that I'm addressing, and I need to make some appointments and see some people who know how to help me with certain issues. I don't want to talk about what the personal issues are, but I'm working on them, and we'll figure it out. And I worry a lot. I have a lot of anxiety, and I think I need to go for more brisk walks. I used to take a lot more brisk walks or ride my bicycle, and that really helps my mental and physical health quite a lot if I get enough brisk exercise. It's really good for your entire bloodstream and just your brain. And I just know that I need to follow my own advice and get out there and get some more brisk walks in. And as I get older, also lift weights and keep my muscles nice and strong. So thank you for listening. And I'm excited about the art show that I'm in November and finishing my art car. There's still rhinestones that need to be glued on my car, but I'm also gluing or painting glitter and clear coat onto the parts that are fading into colors that I don't fully love. But it is fun to see. I hear something out there. The different rhinestones are fading in different ways. It's interesting to see that. I'm not really a perfectionist with my art, so I leave room for the different rhinestones to fade. So thanks for listening. This is Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring in Seattle. I guess I feel better after recording myself. So I hope you got something out of this video. And I need to make sure to know that I got something out of expressing myself into the video camera for today. So if you want to look at my artwork, just look for Shannon Kringen or Goddess Kring, and you'll see photos and paintings and some musical experiments. My friend and I actually are working on music. His name is Dave Flowers. We're doing some music together. He has a recording studio in his basement, and he's a very talented musician, and he has his own record label called Interactive Jack Records. And that's been a really interesting experience. So yeah, I need to focus on all the creative potential that I have in my life and interesting friends that I have and people I can collaborate with. So thanks for listening. And behind me there is some glittery shoes I found at the thrift store that I glued some rhinestones onto, but I just don't feel like sharing them right now. But I am working on painting, doing my art car, painting canvases, decorating shoes. Like I said before, dog walking, pet sitting, art modeling, standardized patient, recording music with my musical friend, my musician friend, Dave Flowers. I am also feeling like I need more rest and more walks in the forest and standing barefoot in nature to ground myself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'm not a religious person, but I am a spiritual person, and meaning I feel like I'm connected to something beyond myself, and that there's energy in the universe that connects us all, and what you focus on expands, and thoughts like that. And I started listening to Tori Amos again recently. Tom Petty and Tori Amos, both of those musicians, their songs really helped me and reinforced me. My friend Dave Flowers is really into Prince, and he knows everything about Prince, and has exposed me to a lot more Prince music. And I watched a documentary on not James Brown, sorry. James Brown's really cool, but Little Richard last night. Little Richard, fascinating person. And from the age of 12, he was dressing differently and wearing makeup, and doing his hair in different ways. And other little kids didn't understand, and that he was dressing in different ways, and taking his mother's jewelry and pins and stuff and putting them on his shirt. And from a young age, he wanted to be flamboyant and express himself, and sing and dance and do his music the way he did it. And Little Richard is very inspirational to me as well. And what a trailblazer he was. And he married Tom Petty. He not married, but he was the, what do you call it? The minister, the whatever you call it, that pronounces somebody man and wife, the reverend, who married Tom Petty and Dana, Tom Petty's second wife, Dana York, who became Dana York Petty, who's now a widow, sadly. And she's been honest about her grief process, and how she's just now moving out of their Malibu house into her own house. And that's fascinating to me. But these people are real people. What I don't like is when people make fun of famous people, or make fun of people like me who appreciate Tom Petty and Little Richard and Dana, Tom's widow. I mean, these are real human beings, and that express in the media and put themselves out there. And yes, I don't know these people as personal friends, and I'm not delusional enough to think I know these famous people that I'm talking about, but I'm inspired by these people, and that's real, and that's not fake. To be inspired by somebody, whether somebody is your next door neighbor or famous, does it matter? I mean, what matters is what is inspiring you about these people. I mean, that's real and that's legit. Being delusional and thinking that I'm friends with Tom Petty, now that would be weird. I never thought that I was friends with Tom Petty. Tom Petty is a musician, and I love his music. And I am fascinated by his personal life that he shared about. May he rest in peace. But it's time for me to ignore the people that make fun of people for appreciating famous people, because that's real. It's not stupid that I appreciate Tom Petty, or that I learned something from his songs and his lyrics, or Tori Amos's music and lyrics, and listening to them being interviewed about their lives and how their childhoods helped them, or made it harder or easier for them to create their career. I mean, I'm inspired by people's story, their life story, and how they were raised. And I'm fascinated by Tom Petty and Tori Amos, not because they're famous, but I know about them because they're famous. What I like about them is not their fame. What I like about them is their actual music, their actual art, their actual music. So that's real, and that's not shallow, and that's not like idolizing a famous person is different than what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about idolizing a famous person. I'm talking about appreciating the music of an artist, and being curious about what kind of childhood did they have, and how did they overcome adversity to break into the music world. And because there are a lot of great musicians in the world, but only some of them become successful in terms of being able to make a full-time living with their music. And even Tom Petty and Tori Amos, Tom Petty had to file for bankruptcy early in his career, and all kinds of like adversity. He even well into his career, the record label didn't like his Full Moon Fever. They did not like what became his most popular music. The record label rejected it when he first turned it in. So even people like that, and then he kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going until the end of his life, he did music. And Tori Amos has been dropped by labels and had all kinds of legal battles that she had to deal with. And she almost became independent and got out of the major labels altogether until she found somebody who appreciated her and worked with her again after 20 or 30 years. That's a whole nother long story, but these are interesting, real information about the adversity that Tom Petty and Tori Amos had to go through. So it might sound shallow when I talk about Tom Petty and Tori Amos, but I don't mean it in a shallow way. I mean it in an inspirational way. You could easily be inspired by your next door neighbor who is a musician playing gigs at the local bar or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, my other good friend is in a rock and roll cover band called the Mod Men, and they're a really good rock and roll cover band. And they rehearse, and they take it real seriously, and they rehearse. And my friend records himself and plays it back and listens and figures out how he can improve. He's a really good guitar player, and he's in the Mod Man. And that's, there's some real people that I know that are musicians. And then my other friend, Dave Flowers, has performed recently in a bar, and has a recording studio, and I've listened to lots of things that he's recorded. And so I'm interested in the real nitty gritty of performers who create something and publish it, and then all the behind the scenes stuff as well. So I guess I'm just trying to not judge myself for, because I've been criticized by people in my family or just people in general online or in high school or whatever, criticizing me for liking what I like and thinking I'm shallow. And it's like, wait a minute, maybe I should just let them think I'm shallow, but I'm not shallow. So, but who cares? Even if I was shallow, like, shallow people are allowed to just be shallow, but I'm not shallow, but whatever. Okay, there it is. So this is Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring, saying goodbye for now. This video has been long enough. So see you next time. I guess this is the Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring monologue for today. So my website, my main website is shannonkringen.com, but if you just Google Shannon Kringen, ShannonKringen, or Goddess Kring, GODDESSKRING. And my tattoo means be yourself no matter what they say, after that Sting song called Englishman in New York. I love that song. So be yourself no matter what they say. Okay, bada boo, bada bing, stinging rings the kring, catch the wind song, spiral drive, crack the code, left and right node. I wander and I wander, tripping over sand dollars, moon haulers, key robbers, enchanted lands, smoky hands, rough and cracked. Take this sand and stand alone, all one. I present the present, desert the desert. Exercise, bring exorcism, cleanse. Shaka shaka, shaka shaka, shaka shaka. So that's part of one of my poems. So catch the wind song, spiral drive, and Tom Petty widens my jetty. So there it is.